Hey, it's Ed here with lessons from my mentor. This one's a little bit more tough because I waited a couple of days because still a little bit fresh. But one of my mentors that I had was through the Gartner Executive Program. So I used Gartner quite a bit when I was a CIO. And the last few times, we always had this major package with Gartner, which included having a CIO mentor. And to be perfectly frank about it, I didn't really want one. It just, the package that it came with, it just made sense. So I remember first meeting David Adams when I was CIO at Texas Health Resources. So it's about 2011, 2012. And I was like, what's this guy going to teach me? He was a few years older, been CIO of some big tech company. And I got to meet him and I sort of warmed up to him and I humbled myself a little bit. I was like, Ed, you can learn from someone. and and because it's not that I didn't want to learn from someone, because obviously I think you picked up by now, I'm really motivated to learn from others. But it was sort of like a forced thing. I didn't get to choose the person. It was just like given to me. But after our first meeting, I was no longer skeptical. I still remember exactly where it was, but as a Starbucks near my home. And I really warmed up to him quickly because he was just so personable and just a lovely human. And so I think starting in the second meeting, I got real with him and sort of confided things in him, because I was still very much growing as an executive, young in my career and trying to understand politics, of what was going on. Because I sometimes was a little bit naive, and so I really needed a better understanding on how to navigate the politics of any workplace. So this isn't a negative thing on Texas Health. I mean, every workplace has its politics. And as a leader, you have to grow and be able to survive and thrive in those environments. And so he taught me a lot about how to do that. So I would share with them different things that were going on. So I had this trusted person. I couldn't really share that with my boss, couldn't really share it with, my peers, couldn't share it with my direct reports, but it provided me this other outlet, which is why I love mentoring and have this series, Lessons from My Mentor. And he was super, super informative in helping me on how to deal with things. So a couple of the things was not to take things too serious. Like I would be crushed by different things, and it was just hard on you, right, emotionally to always have that level of stress. And he said, "Look, Ed, no one's life was impacted in a negative way. No one's, you know, died from this. Just breathe and realize that this is just a moment in time and everything's gonna be fine." And that was really helpful to me. It sounds simple now, and a lot of you probably already do that, but for me at the time, I wasn't like that. I was like, everything was like, oh, I was so stressed and serious. And that was a key learning for me. Another one was to sort of confront things and don't ignore them. So while you didn't want to get super stressed about them, if there were little hints that here and there politically about things going on, be proactive. I would tend to maybe ignore them, like get stressed out and ignore it, which only made things worse. So I learned more about confrontation, like in a good way. What do we call those? Serious conversations. I forget what the clever word is that many people, crucial conversations, have. And so it's like these proactive, crucial conversations. And and then the third one was sort of related to the first one about not taking things too serious, but is it's okay to not respond right away to everything. It's still hard for me today, actually, but I remember always feeling like I needed to respond right away, like if the world was crashing and I had to do things. And he wasn't saying ignore things or let them sit around for too long. Not that at all. But I was a type that would immediately, like this literally happened. I was on a plane landing after being away from the office for a few days on a business trip, and there was a message from one of the other executives. It was late. I think it was like 6 p.m. I was landing. I just wanted to go drive from the airport home. And it's like, no, this is serious. I got to take it, I got to. And so instead of going home, I drove to the office, and the person, even though they knew I was coming, had left. So I'd spent all this time, and it's a kind of a silly example, but not really when you multiply it many times over. I should have just said, hey, thanks for reaching out. Not able to get to it tonight, but first thing in the morning or something like that. Again, sounds simple as I articulate it now, but it's something that I wasn't operating in. And so he was really helpful. So I remember I moved on and I was in New York City Health and Hospitals, and I received a phone call from David. This would have been 2015. And he's like, Ed, I need help. I have cancer, and who can is there someone specifically you can refer me to? And so I remember helping him out. And indeed he fought hard and valiantly for, man, it must be 9 years. And during that time, I interacted with him somewhat, had a couple social occasions. He did a great job, he and his wife, just communicating with everyone, things going on. And sadly, earlier this week, which would have been February 5th, I believe, I had a text message from David, but it was his wife, that he had traded his earthly rags for robes of righteousness. So I was glad in a sense, that he wasn't suffering anymore. I mean, that's a long time to be fighting cancer. And on the other hand, of course, the devastation of his friends and his family, especially of losing your dad, your husband, your granddad. So it just reminded me to talk about David Adams and his mentoring on one of these episodes. And I think the final thing that struck me in all this is, when was the last time did I speak with him and shared with him my thankfulness for what he had done? It had been quite some time. So that's my regret. And that's what I share with you, sort of ending this particular lesson of things that David Adams taught me. Hopefully they're helpful to you, but also that we shouldn't forget to be thanking the people of influence and of importance in our life on a regular basis. So that's it. Thanks for listening. I hope it helps.